What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Heavy Mind Podcast. I'm Teddy Osuna. Today I'm joined by a good friend of mine. I'm going to let him go ahead and introduce himself because I really love his story, and I've talked to him a few times, but I really wanted it to be on this podcast, so without further ado.
My name is Jacob Smith. I am 36 years old from Oceanside, California. I'm married with three kids. I currently right now am a corporate executive businessman that works for 3 apparel companies. I travel a lot for business, and I am with work between, being a sole provider in Southern California and just all the other, let's say, stresses and pressures of life. I feel like, a lot of the times prioritizing yourself is not something you can always do. And I've been through, the reins of all those pressures, and I still find a way to obviously prioritize my health and make sure that I'm getting my mind right and to being the best that I possibly be for my kids. Because in a life where you're full of pressure, you got to make sure you're filling yourself up so you can fill them up too.
Yes, sir. And that's why I wanted him on the podcast, because he does a lot for his family. And he just had you just have a newborn, right?
7-month-old.
7 month. Okay. And he's one of those guys where no matter what, he's going to put the work in for himself every single day, no matter what's going on. And that's what a lot of people put on the back burner to begin with, is as soon as something starts getting hard, the first instinct is, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm tired. I'm going to have a drink because it's what makes me feel good about myself. Or I'm going to do something to sabotage your health, right, instead of actually taking care of it, because that's the easier thing to do, right? Like when you have a stressful day at work, like you just were telling me that you had a stressful day at work. A lot of people, they would go run to the bar or run to go do something. But what is he doing? He's here doing this podcast when he could have easily been like, hey, Teddy, you know what? I'm sorry, bro. I'm going to have to cancel on you. But he's so dedicated and committed to bettering himself and his family that's why I wanted to get you on here, because I wanted people to hear the story of you as a businessman, as a father, as someone who came from the struggle, because I heard your story before, and it wasn't always easy for you. You had to go through the ringer to get to where you're at now, right? And you and I are both we're at the same age. I'm turning 36 this year, and I feel like I'm still so far down, on the ladder, as opposed to you. Like, you've accomplished so many things, and I'm like, man, I can only wish to be somewhere at that level. But I've done other things where you can come to me and be like, you've done shit I wouldn't. Absolutely. So that's why I wanted you on the podcast, and I wanted to have this conversation with you. It's 2 men coming together and who want to better themselves and their family.
Absolutely, yeah. No, first and foremost, I appreciate everything you just said, and I'm very humbled to have you say that to me, because I got a lot of respect for you too. As far as your story and what I've seen just in the short time of knowing you, has been nothing short of inspiring. I mean, I've told you that in the past, but I'll say it again for the viewers to see. I mean, what you've been able to transform in just the time that I've known you, and even before then, where you came from, the podcast that you used to run, which was eating fast food.
Exactly.
I mean, you've done a complete transformation. So much respect to you.
I appreciate that.
As far as, growing up and everything, as far as my life and things that I've been in, circumstances, 100% to the point that you're making, my first reaction in any hard challenge that I was ever faced with as a young adolescent child in a broken home was to reach for things to numb out and escape some of the reality that I was faced with on a current day-to-day basis. And so that was alcohol, that was drugs, marijuana, and things of that nature. At a very early age, I was presented those things, and they were easy to get access to because my home was broken. So the first thing I would ever do is I would reach for the streets to get the acceptance, because I wasn't getting that acceptance that I was looking for as the middle child at home, in a home where, my mom had left my dad, and, there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of hurt. And so where I would find that was in the validations of others. And all I ever wanted to do was be seen as a kid. I wanted to be noticed. I wanted to be, someone that, made a difference, I guess, or was important, I think is probably the best way to put it. And so I, to an extent, I had a complex. And that complex is still with me to this day, but it's the way I use that complex, and I think that it's you turn the negative into a positive. We all have traumas. We all have past experiences. And it's how we use them to our advantage, because some of our biggest struggles can be some of our greatest triumphs. Some of these things that we go through, you grow through what you go through. As cliche as that sounds, it's true. And we go through these things, and in the perspective of going through them, when you're going through them, you can't see the light, and it's so dark, and you just find ways to try to see how you can just get through. And sometimes when you do get through and you fight through, you realize that it was the greatest blessing for you, because it actually makes you a stronger, more resilient self and person to be able to persevere through anything that is challenging in your life. So, as far as some of the things that I've been through, I don't know how deep you want me to go.
Oh, and it's, however deep you want to go. It's just like I said, genuinely, like, I know we've talked in the past, your bout with the drugs, and even, like, if you don't mind me saying, like, when you went to jail for a little bit, all of that stuff is something that other men should know, that it's not easy to get to where you're at.
Absolutely not. I mean, if you look at me on paper, I make no sense. In these meetings, corporate meetings that I'm in now, I'm the only one in the room that, in anyone's opinion, should not be in that room. These guys are qualified. They got degrees. I barely graduated high school. I never went to college, and I started off as a physical laborer in a warehouse working, because let's be honest, that's usually where people start out that make the bad decisions.
Exactly.
And they stay there, and I somehow found a way to use my mindset and just the resilient pursuit of just trying to prove other people wrong, to the advantage of, what, I don't care what the naysayers say. I've been labeled my whole life. In high school, I was told by the security guards that I was end up dead or in prison, that there was no future, there was no hope for me. I was always told what I wasn't. And all I ever wanted to do was show people that I was something that they were telling me that I wasn't, by giving the effort and just applying myself. And so again, that's the work. And I always tie everything into the work. So when people think fitness and they talk about, like, oh, you're a fitness coach, I go, it's so much more than fitness. It's so much more than the physical aesthetic appeal to what people think it is. It's more than the six pack. Don't get me wrong. The six pack is going to give you the self-confidence. It's going to make you feel better about yourself, which is a great thing to have in the arsenal of life. But it's also what it does for your mind, because if you take care of yourself, your health is wealth. Everybody knows that. But also, you're taking care, it's therapy, but it's taking care of, the stresses and pressures of life. Let's say, for instance, I know that you're an early riser, Teddy. You get up in the morning, but let's be honest, one of the hardest things to do is to wake up at 3:30. I know for me and you, that's usually the time we get up in the morning, 3:30 a.m., 4 a.m., when everyone's silent asleep, in their blankets, getting up, it's cold, your bones are hurting. Majority of the time you're hurt, you're sore, you don't feel like doing it, and that beats the times that you do want to do it, because motivation, I always say, motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so people are like, oh, man, you're so motivated. I'm not motivated. It's routine, regimen-based. I'm automatic. It's systematically instilled in who I am through the habits that I've created, through the consistent approach of resilience. It's like, I'm not going to deviate. I'm not going to let my body dictate what my mind says I'm going to do. I don't compromise. I don't settle. My word is bond. And once you find that is the key to life, with fitness being the foundation, through the discipline, through the early rising, through the pouring into yourself so you can pour into others. I always tell people, it starts there, but then it trickles to every other aspect of your life. So I was a chubby kid that, first I was skinny, then I was chubby, and then you saw some of my pictures. I went through a stage and people were like, yeah, right, no, I definitely did. And then I hated the person I looked back in the mirror. I was fighting demons. I was fighting, the streets. I was trying to transition my life. I didn't know who the hell I was. I was, lacking my identity to an extent. Well, I was truly lacking identity. And then finally, I had to find that identity. And that identity was being proud of the person I look back at. First thing was aesthetics. It was like, okay, I got, the only way I'm going to feel good about myself is I look good in my own skin and I feel confident with who I am. I started there. But by doing that, then all of a sudden I started creating habits. And those habits became embedded in me to where I was able to then say, okay, well, if I can do that, I can do this. And then that confidence grew into that, into this, and it grew into not just, my fitness, but also into my career. So again, no college background, and literally was able to work myself into a current vice president of operations role for three companies, three companies. So yeah, I do a lot of travel. I thought climbing the corporate ladder was the key to success. I believe that if I could get that title, if I could get that thing, I could prove all these naysayers wrong. And then I got there, and I realized I was still lacking. I was able to provide for my family, which is great, because money allows for you to do things for your family, and that's what we do it for. But I still felt like something was missing, and it clicked, and it was helping others. It's always been about helping others. Everything that I was addicted to, which was at first being seen, was just a starting point of getting people to see that if I could do it, they could do it too. Once people saw my story, my journey, it inspired them. And they said, well, damn, if he could do it, I can do it too. So I had to vocalize to them how to do it. And that gave me true fulfillment. And it was the first time in my life that I actually felt fulfilled. It was the first time in my life where I felt like I was making a difference, because money comes and goes, but impact is forever. It's legacy.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what's insane about you, is that you, like you said, you run 3 companies, and then on top of that, you still have online clients that you coach, right?
Yes.
So that right there just goes to show you, if you want it bad enough, you will do it to help somebody.
Absolutely.
Because you could easily be like, oh, I've made it in the corporate world, I don't need to do anything. But you look within yourself and you're like, no, there's still something missing, and I have to do something to get that itch out, right? And through fitness, it sounds like, I remember when I first started the fitness journey, and I would listen to things like this, and I'm like, that sounds so dumb. What is fitness? What does that have to do with, being outside or doing this? It genuinely has everything to do with it.
100%.
Because when you do the hard shit and you face it like head on, and you realize, oh, it wasn't that hard. It was just a mental thing. That literally, like you said, it trickles down to every aspect of your life. You don't want to have that hard conversation with your wife because you don't want to hurt her feelings. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that conversation, it's going to build and build and build. And then your relationship's going to falter and just go to shit.
Well said.
And at the end of the day, if you have that conversation, and you just like that hard conversation, whether it's with your kid, your wife, anybody in life, right? You can look at them and say, you know what? This is what's happening. Is there a way we can fix it?
Absolutely. Well said. You nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so true. And I think people oversee that. I think people kind of look at it like, they see it as just one layer, and the layer is the physical appearance.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. And so we know that it can stem from the first thing that they believe that we're seeking, which is the, aesthetics and the self-confidence. Okay, well, self-confidence is 100% the first foundational thing that you're going to get when you start to feel better in your own skin, which is so damn important when it comes to life.
Yeah.
But behind that, it's the habits, and you know that. And I think you look at business, and business for me, I'm a firm believer. Anybody can do anything they set their mind to if they have the right habits and they have the discipline. Discipline with the right habits, with the right mindset, can achieve anything. You apply yourself to something, you can do it. I don't limit anybody. I think that people are their own worst enemy. So when I look at these people in business, I see these successful people that I feel are falling short because they're lacking in areas. And I can identify what those areas are. Most of those areas is that they're not consistent in every approach of their life. And it's stemmed through their daily habits. Whether they are the people that show up late to work, whether they're people that are hot one day and they're cold the next. We don't break. We don't deviate. So if we have habits that we stick to, and they, are embedded in us, it allows for us to catch up this momentum in life that eventually makes us successful in every avenue, whether, like you just said, to the point of even your relationships. You're not shying away from the challenges because your life is a challenge. You're facing adversity. You're forcing yourself in uncomfortable situations. You're forcing yourself to do the things that you don't want to do, regardless of how you feel. That's adversity. That's opposition, and that applies to everything. So start there, and then watch how it goes in every other aspect of your life.
Yeah, it changed my mind, or my whole life entirely, once I made that switch where it's like, okay, this is hard, but it's not as hard as something else could be, right? Because clearly everyone's life is different. I'm not going to sit here and be like, my life is perfect. No one's life is perfect. We all have our own obstacles to overcome. It's how you decide to overcome them that dictates what your life is going to be.
Most definitely.
You can definitely, be in the shit. Let's be honest. Like, you can be miserable and be covered in it and whatever. But if you decide to, what, I'm just going to be here, I'm comfortable like this. That's your decision. You have the decision to say, you know what? I no longer want to be like this. I want to be clean. I want to make sure that I do this for myself, do this for my family. Whatever it is that drives you, that's what you need to do it for. As selfish as it may sound, it is, because if you're not selfish, you're not going to go anywhere. That's what I feel was something for me that I needed to make the change, because I was like, I don't want to be that guy that's just always thinking about himself. Like, well, yeah, but you have to think about yourself before. That's why when you're on a flight, they say, and the masks come down, and they say, put your mask on before you can help somebody else. It's true. That's basically life. Because if you don't take care of yourself, someone's going to have to take care of you.
Absolutely. Let's go a little further.
Yeah.
If you don't love yourself, how can you love others?
Exactly.
And so it's like, if you aren't in love with who you are, by taking care of yourself, by prioritizing yourself, you're never going to love and prioritize the people around you.
Yep.
You can say it, I hear it all the time. It's like, well, I don't got time to prioritize myself because I got to focus on. Those people that speak that way are miserable.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the people that are giving their people, it's a disservice to their people. Their people are getting this half-cocked version of them that is actually falling short. That's doing them and their family a disservice. Yep. But if they took a different approach and they were to go, okay, look, I'm going to prioritize myself. So in return, by filling myself up, I can pour into my family, into the people around me. They would realize that their life would flourish. But you're 100% right. Selfish is selfless. The early stages is making sure that you're prioritizing you so that way you can create a version that is going to be able to help and benefit others. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's I also wanted to get into, you being in the corporate world and a lot of the travel that you do. I know, I'm not sure if the people who watch this, but you've met Andy Frisella, right? Or
no, I met his brother.
You met his brother? Okay.
But I did go into his podcast room, which was awesome. I did go to the facility, worked out in First Form just recently at the start of the year, and I got to meet a lot of the big players for First Form, but it's an amazing facility.
What led you to get down to go to the actual First Form facility? Because that, to me, I was like, that's pretty cool.
Honestly, everything that First Form stands for, everything that Andy stands for, but it's the standards. Because life is about standards. First, you got to identify the standard. And what the standard is for us is high, right? We want to make sure that we're always optimizing our physique. We're always optimizing our relationships. We're optimizing our skill sets, everything. And so with them, they've always stood out to me as something that I was drawn to because of their standards. And I considering that, the old saying is iron sharpens iron. Well, with them, if I got around them, I feel like that friction would rub off on me because I'm a firm believer that an environment can change an individual before an individual can change an environment. Okay. And so, being around that environment, walking into that facility, getting in there because I was part of their Legionnaire team.
Oh, okay,
I met with at first it was, I was buying supplements through them. I love their supplements. I joined the Legionnaire program. Then I started talking to a few of them. Then they started following me and watching my content. And then I started messaging them through DM on Instagram. Okay. And then it led to, hey, look, I'm traveling out to St. Louis for work. Could I ever come out and check out the facility? Not knowing how far I would go. Yeah. And then I got a private, tour and brought in by this guy named Josh, really good guy. And they brought me in and they treated me like family. And it was crazy. Walking into that facility just to talk about the level that Andy Frisella has put into his staff, into what he built. It's so much bigger than a supplement brand. Yeah. It's, what they stand for, their core ethic values, and the pride they take in every detail. I mean, I've never worked out. Matter of fact, I went into the bathrooms and I washed my hands. After you wash your hands, you wipe down the sink, literally to the point where it's like you never use the sink. You get into the gym and you're working out, and every plate, it's as if it was an untouched gym that's never been used before because everything symmetrically is lined up. There's no weights. The dumbbells are perfectly lined up to where you can actually see like their writing is not even an inch or a centimeter off. And that's the standard. And like you look at that and you're like, damn, that's a bit excessive to the normal person. Yeah. But to us, it's not. And you know what? To be obsessed to that level of that standard, I feel like is what separates the greats from the average.
Yeah. And it's funny that you said the standard because when I started training here, my coach, when I messaged him, I had met him 6 years ago, but I wasn't in the right mindset to be coached, right? And if you're going to hire a coach, you have to be in the right mindset.
Absolutely.
So I reached back out to him. I had seen him and I had lost whatever amount of weight, but I wanted to take it further. I had no idea about doing the bodybuilding show, nothing. I just wanted to take my physique to another level. The first thing he messaged me back when I reached out to him, I was like, hey, how are you doing? How's everything been? He's like, I see that you're living the new standard. And this was literally just the first message he sent back to me because he also follows something like that where he's like, I set the standard for my life no matter what. And that has become one of the most like a lot of people say it now. Like Chris Bumstead, he has shirts that say set the standard. All these people, the standard is what you make it out to be. And if you have that within yourself, it can be so great and you can accomplish so many things, but you have to want it. Because if you say you do, I could say 1,000 times I'm going to lose weight. But at the end of the day, if I don't put the action or put my foot forward to actually start doing it, those are just words.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And words are not going to get you anything. What I've noticed ever since I started this journey is that once you start doing something and people see like, oh crap, he's actually doing it. That's when people give you respect. And some people might look at you as like, oh, you think you're cocky now, but those are the people that are doing worse than you. And they say those things, or they may think those things. I've never been told that personally, but I've gotten those feelings from people where I'll talk to somebody and I kind of get that vibe of like, this guy thinks he's all like, and I'm like, I don't think I'm anything.
It's one thing if they think that, you don't think that. And at the end of the day, I always say, life's a mirror, it's not a window. A lot of times people like to look at life like a window. They like to look outside and they like to judge and they like to critique because it's a coping mechanism for the weak. But we know that all we do is we look back at ourselves. Yeah. We're critiquing ourselves. We're working ourselves. So when you're speaking that way about something to somebody, and they're sitting there thinking that you're being egotistical, and here you are just trying to maybe say something that you feel that they can benefit from, and the last thing you're trying to do is toot your own horn. You're just excited and thrilled about the growth and the progress. It's because you're operating at a different level. Yeah. And so they don't see from the same lens you do, and all we can do is just hope that one day they will, and we're going to continue on our path and on our journey knowing that this path is not meant for everybody because a lot of people aren't going to see eye to eye with you. They're not going to understand. You're going to be misunderstood, and you know, it's going to be at times lonely, and it is daunting, but you know what? It's so gratifying, and we know that we've lived both extremes, specifically from, you know, even your journey to mine. It's been completely opposite spectrums. Yeah. And so when you've been from both extremes, you know that, oh, I've been there, and I've also been here, and I know that, I've come too far to only come this far, and I'm not going back. So although it's lonely at the top is what they say, you know what? It was lonely at the bottom too. Exactly. And so be it. Yeah. So be it.
It's funny you say that, the two extremes, right? Now I know what the two extremes are of being super overweight and lean. Right. Because I've been 4% body fat from probably like 55% body fat. Going down to 4% body fat is insane. Wow. And I know what the differences, the drastic differences, right? And finding that middle ground is the hardest thing to do with yourself, because you can easily go back to being the old version of yourself in an instant. It takes no effort whatsoever to be the old you, but it takes so much work to be this new version of you. And that's where you have to find it within yourself of saying, do I really want this, or am I going to go back?
Right, of course. And I at first it's exciting because when you're elevating and your body's changing and you can see the progress, you're addicted to the transformation. But then you get to a point where you get there and you're there, and now you're more of a maintenance, and you're getting little improvements, but they're not what they used to be. Yeah. And then now the excitement where you first got from the audience around you that was applauding you and your successes and your journey and your pursuit, all of a sudden start to gear back. And then you're stuck with yourself. And then you start to realize, oh, damn, I've kind of lost not only my audience and my supporters, but I'm still trying to find a way to find the inner strength without the audience, without the applause, to keep going. And that is a hard phase 2 transition. And that's why the habits are so damn important, because if you instill those habits, it's not about the thought process or the feelings or the, better yet, motivation that we were talking about earlier. It's about the discipline, the consistency, and the non-negotiable habits that you don't deviate from, that allow for you to weather that storm. You get to a point where you start to wonder and question yourself, like, am I doing something wrong? People liked me more when I was a piece of shit than they like me now when I'm a better version of myself. Should I just go back? And you start to wonder, but then you realize it's not that people liked you more when you were a POS. They actually just those weren't your people. Yeah. You're at a different level of your life now where you're starting to break through to this next year. You just haven't found those people yet. And so then there's that phase 2 where you're trying to find out that, there is another table, but you got to earn your stripes to get there.
Yes,
and
you do.
We're in that transitional state.
Yeah. And then getting to that point where you have to find new people who have the same mindset as you, that's a lonely road as well, because you have all of these things that you're learning and that you're going through, right? Like you said, and everyone that in your old life is still stuck in that same cycle of debauchery or whatever it is that they're stuck in, right? And then you're trying to go forward and you want to move past it, but you have to let those people go.
You do, and it's hard because a lot of those people are your family. A lot of those people are your childhood friends, and you still got a lot of love for those people. And to know that you got to let go and you can't allow for that to weigh you down anymore, and you can't fight for something that isn't fighting back for you,
Yeah.
and knowing that actually was weighing you down is a very hard thing to come to terms with, and you have to be at peace with it. Because I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience. I still struggle with it till this day, where I'll have times where I'm like, I miss those calls from those people that I love.
Yeah.
And I'm asking myself, why am I not getting those calls? And then, I ask myself, am I not doing enough? Do I need to do more? But I realize that organically everything plays itself out at the stage you are in your life. And so, you could say that, through the journey and the pursuit of excellence, or through the high standards that we just talked about, that you're not trying to make people feel bad about themselves, but by default, they feel bad about themselves just being around you.
Yeah.
And so your presence and essence of who you are, what you stand for, the habits, the standards of everything that you represent when you're just around them, and that energy makes them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It makes them feel guilty. It makes them feel shameful. You're not trying to do those things. If anything, you would love nothing more than to show them the path and help them along the way, because you got love for these people. But their ego won't allow for them to ask you for help. They want your help, and you can see it in their eyes, but they're just too prideful. Yeah. And I've been there. I know what that is. I know what that feels like. And all I can do is just hope that one day, just maybe, through the consistent approach of what I'm taking, that these people will come around and I can, pull them up the stream with me.
Yeah. Which I think is funny, since you are an online coach. I'm pretty sure that the people you're helping, you've probably met them, maybe you haven't met them, but the majority of them are strangers.
Yeah.
They're not people who are close to you.
No.
Because the people closest to you won't, like you said, they won't ask you for help because they're too ashamed of it.
Absolutely. They say you can't be a prophet in your own land.
Exactly.
And that is something I heard that one time from someone, I can't remember who said it, but I was like, whoa, that resonated, because they've seen you at your worst, and now they're seeing you at your best, and they got that arrow peeled back, and they're like, oh, he's going to go back. They're going to go back, and they're just waiting for you to stumble. It's unfortunate that people are like that, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's just because they haven't found their way. Yeah. And again, to what I just talked about, they just feel that guilt, they feel that shame, and you're rubbing it in their face.
And you're not even really trying to rub it in their face.
Absolutely
you're just
not.
living your new life, and you want to express this to the mountaintops, because it's such a good feeling. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm perfect and that I'm every single day I live by this model. There are days where I just, I've fallen off. After prep, I had a month where I was like, you know what? I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it. I ate the foods I wanted. I did all the things I wanted. But guess what? Right after that, got back on track. I'm not going to let it dictate the rest of my life. It was like a month where I was like, all right, I spent 11 months where I was just strict on everything. I'm allowed a little bit of leeway, right? I didn't let myself go. I didn't do anything crazy, but I had that little window, and then in the back of my head, I was like, time's done. Let's get back to it. Back to the 5 a.m. routine, cardio, all the things I was doing. And that's what makes me feel alive. It's what makes me feel happy.
Absolutely. I mean, we're not robots here,
No.
and there is, you got to enjoy life, to an extent too. So there is a balance, because let's be honest, the greatest currency is time, and also freedom, but also being present. And a lot of times when you get in the grind and you're so locked in and focused, like you said, to your meals and to the macros and to the numbers and to the consistent wake up times and everything. And those are great, but you all want to lose sight of what's really important, which is your family, which is the people in front of you, and capturing and being present in those given moments. But I feel like, my biggest struggle, I feel like, that I see with people, and I hope people can take from this, is that I think a lot of times, and what I'm seeing online, specifically now that I'm a creator and not a consumer on social media, but I'll see these posts from similar influencers or just people in general that are talking about self-acceptance, and I see this, and it's like it's this a delusional approach of like, you're enough, or you are good the way you are. I disagree. And I think that these people are telling people that they're good enough to get them to believe they are when they're not. People need to know that self-love is self-respect, and self-respect is applying yourself to things, working hard and earning it through the work to feel prideful in who you are as an individual. But to sit here and say that people don't have to apply themselves and earn that feeling, and they can just trick their mind into believing that they're enough, I feel like is doing the society a disservice. And I think that I know from past experiences, seeing therapists, thinking I could reach for alcohol to numb out the way I felt, which I wasn't, at that given time feeling good about myself or my circumstances. It doesn't work, because what it does is it puts a Band-Aid over a wound, and eventually that wound gets infected, and it just gets worse, and it festers and it spreads. You got to address it. and you got to pull that Band-Aid off, and you have to heal that wound the right way. And the only way you do that is by facing adversity, facing challenges, facing uncomfortable conversations, all the opposition of a life. And that right there in itself is a living testament. And you start with working on yourself internally, not externally. And you cannot trick yourself into believing for 1 second that you can tell yourself that you're enough when you are truly, truly not putting in the work.
Yeah, it's crazy how like this whole thing is transpired, because so I posted a video yesterday about how I've lost 100 pounds and I'm a trainer. And then I got a message from somebody saying, I wish I had the dedication. And it kind of, it rubbed me the wrong way, because how are you wishing you had that dedication when you can have the dedication if you just apply yourself?
That's it.
It's not like a secret or a magical potion that gives you the dedication or the motivation. It's like you said earlier, it's the consistency, the everyday grind of doing those things is what makes you who you are.
Let's be honest, though, I know you're going to agree with this. It's you wake up one day and you're pissed off enough and disgusted and mad and irritated and frustrated that you have put yourself in this position that's so unfavorable, and you allow for yourself to get there, that you finally look at yourself and say, I'm going to do something about it.
Yep.
And then you make that decision, which makes you act. And then when you act into that decision, you're so driven to change the position you put yourself into and make the position actually work in your favor that you put in the work.
Yeah.
And you then start to do the work, which then starts to create the habits. And then from the habits, you get the discipline. But no, you don't just wake up with discipline.
Yeah.
You build and create through the work, the discipline.
Yeah.
So people are like, oh, yeah, how do you get that discipline? You got to be pissed off enough at your circumstances, and you finally got to be honest with yourself, like we just talked about. Self-honesty is self-love, and that's where you get self-mastery, because you finally realize, like, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and talk a bunch of crap about people and talk about people's shortcomings, because I know that makes me feel better about how I can cope with my own, because theirs are worse than mine. And look, I've been there. And so you can sit there and you could try to point and treat life like it's a window and just pick people apart.
Yeah.
Or you can finally say, you know what? Maybe they're not the problem. Maybe what I'm really running from is myself.
Yep.
And maybe if I just looked in that mirror and not that window, I could address those issues. I could address what's really been eating at my soul and eating at me as an individual. And then again, life is not how it is. Life is how you are.
Yeah.
You know, if you hate the world, it's because you hate yourself. You start to love yourself, you start to love the world. You start to love life. You start to appreciate life because you appreciate you. If you are not happy with who you are, you're not going to be happy in life, period.
Yeah, because there's so many things in life that go wrong that just happen. And you could be mad at the world and pissed off and like whatever, say all the things like you said, talk smack about this person, talk smack about that person. But if you're not taking the time to look within yourself and just understand, I'm okay, things will be okay. That's when life, your life perspective changes so drastically. Like even for me, the last few weeks for me were hell. I was going through some stuff where my son unfortunately broke his arm. Both bones in his arm were broken. I got the phone call from his school, hey, your son's arm is broken. To me, my heart dropped, my stomach, everything, right? Because I don't want to hear that about my son. And here I was, seeing my son, walking him into the hospital, holding his arm just completely shattered. And seeing his strength of not crying, thinking that I was going to be mad at him for breaking his arm, that rocked me to my core. But when the doctors and everyone looked at my son and go, your son's a trooper. He's strong. And he looked at me, he's like, it's because of you, Dad.
Wow.
That got me.
Powerful. Because
he could have easily been pissed off, complained about everything, but his attitude towards everything is positive because it's still broken. But it's the way you look at things and what I've taught him in the regards of you don't have to be pissed off at the world. I know something bad happened to you. It wasn't your fault. We had no control over why it happened. But you can take this experience and turn it into something completely different.
100%.
And I feel like that's what helped him get through it. Never once did he complain through the surgery, through the 2 times he had to go under to make the bone set, nothing. He got out of it. He looked at me both times he came out of when he was sleeping. He's like, Dad, I love you. And that to me was everything perspective-wise. It could be worse, but it's not.
You want to talk about a purpose. I mean, if that doesn't show you that all the work you put in didn't pay its dividends, because it's a lot bigger than us, but it started with us. You see, your son was watching you. Your son was, even at times that you didn't maybe think he was watching, he was watching. And that, it gave me goosebumps. Man. You said that because, you know, that's what we do this all for. Literally what we do it all for. And, you know, I got a 3-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, and then the infant 7-month-old baby. But my 3-year-old son is like, Dad, one day I'm going to be strong like you. I'm like, boy, you are strong. He's always flexing his guns. And so I'm getting that younger stage hair right now. But it's amazing. And then my daughter, where she's a girl, it's not so much like the boy, but she's also like, she thinks her dad's the strongest man on earth. You know, I went to her class to read a book to them on you know, one of these last week on Friday for Flag Friday. They had this thing. I get in there and I'm reading in front of all these kids, and I got the book out. And she just had this glow of like, that's my dad. And she's proud of her dad. And again, that's what it's all about. As specifically a father, a husband, a man, our life's purpose is to lead. It's to show people through action, not through our words, what we stand for and what we represent. Because at the end of the day, maybe when your kids are young, you can sit there and you can influence them and jade them into believing what you say. But one day they're going to figure you out. And the older they get, when they do start to identify through your traits who you are, it's too late. It's too far gone. But if they start to realize that your words match your actions, you have your kids for life. And now not only do you have your kids' trust, but you have the influence. They're going to follow your lead. They're going to follow your standards. They're going to follow your core ethics and values. And to hear your son go into a hospital with his chin up, no tears in his eye, probably in excruciating pain. It sounds like he had to get surgery. Then you know it was a major break. But he had his dad's strength, and he knew his dad would be proud of what he was able to endure. It's what it's all about. Literally.
Like I said, it was one of the worst experiences I've ever had to go through with him. And just seeing his face, and like when he was... When I told him, I was like, dude, it's okay to cry. That's when he broke down and just like started sobbing and just like, it hurts and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, that's fine. But like you said, he's seen me go through, you know, tough stuff as well. And me telling him, this isn't your fault. It's okay. Perspective is everything. Big time. Because I could have turned that into this big old scenario where it's like, dude, what'd you do? Why'd you even, like all this stuff, and bashed him about it. But it's like, no, this is a learning experience. Take this and grow from it, learn from it. This is going to make you stronger. Yes, you're going to be in a cast for 6 weeks, whatever. After it, we get you back stronger, physical therapy, whatever it is we need to do. We get you stronger, get you, you know, all of these things that for you to be a better kid, it can happen. And he was pissed off because he can't play golf this whole time, and his golf season was about to start. And he loves playing golf. He just started playing basketball for his local team, and everything was just going negative, right? And I could have been like, you know what, dude, stuff sucks. This is all horrible. But instead I said, hey, it's okay. This is just a bump in the road. Let's work past it. When we come back, we're going to come back stronger, get you better golf lessons, better school, better this, better everything to make you a better version of who you are right now. This may seem sucky now, but in the long run, you're going to be better for it.
Call that the minor setback for a major comeback.
Exactly.
And that's what life all is. I mean, there's major setbacks that happen, and you don't know when they're going to happen, but are you ready for when they happen?
Yeah.
And it's moments like that you're teaching him now that, yeah, you know what, this is a setback, but this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Guess what? You're going to come back stronger because through your recovery and through the struggle and through the pain, you're forged into a stronger, more resilient human being. And that adversity is what introduces a man to himself.
Exactly. And it also goes to show him something may happen that was life-altering, but I still made the time to come to the gym, train the people I needed to train, and work out for myself and take care of myself. Because I know that if I didn't do that for myself, I would be in an even deeper hole of depression and anxiety.
100%. 100%.
I've realized how much the gym helps me become who I actually am.
It's your medication.
Yeah. It's genuinely, like you said, the medication and everything is the
therapy.
Yeah, it's everything to me. I've learned so much about myself within these walls of this gym. And it's astonishing how much you can learn about yourself when you do the hard things. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. And that's why it's a hell of a lot bigger than just the aesthetics.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you also, since being a father, a businessman, and all that, what would you tell someone, either young, grown, or whatever, who's looking to get into this journey of fitness or bettering themselves? How would you have that person get started, or what words of wisdom would you share with those people?
A lot of the questions that I've been getting from people, potential clients, leads, is, how do you count your macros? What workouts should I do? Mm-hmm. Look, truth is, you can look up all that stuff online. You can find the formula online. It's all there. You don't need me to tell you that, because ChatGPT will give it to you. It's not the formula that you get. It's not the routines, the workouts. It's not even the diet. It is the mindset. And so if you don't have the right mindset going into this journey of personal development, and because that's exactly what this is, and the fitness pursuit of becoming the stronger, more resilient self, you're going to break every time, because consistency is key. You're not going to feel motivated majority of the time. And so if you think that if you're going to find the cheat code with the right diet and with the right workout routine, that is such a small aspect of what it takes to actually be able to pull off something that Teddy pulled off. It's the mindset, and it literally is the mental resilience that you have to be coached through, you have to be accountable to, and you have to finally make the decision that once you start, there's no turning back. Yeah. There's no turning back.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you have to be coached through it. A lot of people, when they look into coaches or anything, they kind of just, they want to get their feet wet, right? They're just like poking the bear to see what answers they can get from them for free. Once you realize that when you hire a coach, you're not just hiring a coach, like you said, for macros or for workout splits. You're hiring this person to help you change your mindset. 100%, I can vouch for Carlos. He helped me overcome so many things while I was losing weight to do that show that I didn't realize that I was doing to myself. A lot of the times, we talk down to ourselves all the time. We are our own worst enemy. We sit here and we call ourselves names. We call ourselves everything. I personally would not be my own friend if I talked to myself, or someone else talked to me the way I talk to myself, because of how bad I used to talk to myself. Everything, I wasn't worth it. I was ugly. Everything you can think of, I would tell myself. One day I came into the gym and I was like, I wasn't feeling it, and my innate reaction was, fuck, I'm a little bitch. And Carlos looked at me and goes, why do you say that about yourself? And I go, because I'm not where I want to be. He said, but you are where you are. Look at how far you've come. The trajectory of who I was to who I was at that point, from where I came from to who I was at that point, was so drastic, and I was so deep in it that I didn't realize how far I had come. That mind shift was like eye-opening to me, where I realized, damn, I should be a lot better and a lot easier on myself. And I feel like a lot of people, when they start this whole journey, they're so hard on themselves that they want to be perfectionists. They want to wait for the right time. They want this, they want that. Just start. If you don't start, you're never going to figure it out. Right. You're never going to know what could have been, because you never started.
Yep, and the job's never finished.
Yeah, exactly. It genuinely is never finished. And that's what I've learned, that like you said, mind shift, mind change, everything comes down to you. How bad do you want it? Do you want this change so bad that you're willing to do whatever it takes?
Yeah, and look, I've invested thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into personal development coaching, and not one penny of it was a waste, because I needed the accountability. I needed someone to give me the belief system that I was lacking.
Yeah. Because
I'm a firm believer that, sometimes you got to rinse someone's belief system until you're strong enough to possess it on your own.
Yeah.
And at first, you have the negative talk, you have the self-doubt, you don't have the confidence yet, so you need someone to tell you that you're capable. You need someone to tell you that, or better yet, to hold you to the fire of the accountability. So that's what, the journey was for me when I invested in Coach coaches as in plural, I was able to get multiple perspectives from individuals that had lived the life that I was pursuing, but had been through something similar to what I was going through, and that could help me navigate those waters. And so when people ask me, how do you count your macros? How do you, what workout routines do I do to get the biggest arms or the biggest chest? It's like, it's so much deeper than that. You got to focus first internally. You got to get your mind right. You have to lock in, and you have to be ready to be held accountable and have somebody walk you along the path and actually pull you along the path until you're strong enough to do it on your own.
Definitely, because a coach is not going to be by your side every single day for the rest of your life. That you build the foundation and the fundamentals, and then that's what carries you through the rest of your life. And also what a lot of people think that they need to do is just dive headfirst into the gym and go 7 days a week, 4 hours a day. That's not the case. No. You can get away with 3 full body workouts a week and be chilling, but you have to do it systematically with a program in mind and with someone who knows how to do it. And that's what a lot of people aren't understanding. They want to jump into this and say, I got this on my own, and then fall off a month later because you didn't have a plan. Ego, exactly. You didn't have a plan. You didn't have something to follow, which is okay. It's a learning experience. You can either take that and grow, or take it and just fall back to who you used to be. Because when I first started, I came to a point where my first coach that I hired could no longer be my coach. 6 weeks in, something happened to him. Got a phone call from his wife. Hey, he can't coach you. I had a decision to make. Do I go back to who I used to be, or do I keep going forward? Clearly, I kept going forward. And I saw him a couple months back. He doesn't remember me because of the medical issues he had. I was able to tell him, because of you and you helping me get started, I was able to accomplish this, this, and this. And the look on his face was, oh, damn. He may not remember me, but I was able to share that with him. And that, to me, was full circle, where I had my coach now and my beginning coach, where I was able to thank him as well.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you'd be foolish to think you could do it alone.
Oh, yeah.
And I still know to this day, and again, a cliche saying is iron sharpens iron as one brother sharpens another. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer in that. Like, if you want, it's law of attraction. Yeah. If you want to be, at higher levels of your life, you have to surround yourself around higher level people.
Exactly.
And, you got like-minded people that are around each other. It's friction. It's energy. And that energy gives you strength when you're lacking. You need it. We're human beings. We're going to have days that we're feeling low. We're going to have days that we slip up and we stumble and we fall. But to have a brother strong in arms that is ready to pick you up and dust you off, and guess what? In return, you're ready to pick up and dust off when the time comes for them, is what really, that brotherhood, that pack is what really makes a difference.
Yeah, man.
And that accountability.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to get him on here, because he's one of the guys where I look up to him a lot, because every day, like clockwork, see him going to the gym, see his breakfast post, everything like clockwork. And you have a lot of things going on, but you still hit the gym every morning. You still get your macros. You still get your, your breakfast in the morning. And then on the weekends, he gets his kids their donuts, but he stays on his meal plan. And that's not easy to do. Every now and then you're like, I just have a donut. But that little thing of like saying no to that donut or saying no to that little thing. Yeah, I mean, there's times where you can enjoy that and have your life. But to stay consistent all the time, that takes a lot of mental effort. And I applaud you for that.
I appreciate it, because I can tell you when I travel, it's where it really gets complicated and difficult. So I bring my scale, I bring my trays. And when you're in hotel rooms, you only got those little mini fridges. Mm-hmm. So, if I can go to the store and get 2 cooked rotisserie chickens and get those packaged rices I can throw in the microwave, and I can scale that in my room with what I have out of a suitcase, and I make sure I get my hot sauce too, and I make it work, right? Anybody can do it. Yeah. And it is doable. Is it hard? Absolutely. But you know what? Life is hard. You just got to choose your hard. You want the hard of insecurity. You want the hard of uncertainty. You want the hard of stress and anxiety, depression, and insomnia, of not feeling like you're living up to your true potential, because that is the inner voice of God telling you that you're capable of doing more? Or do you want the inner peace of knowing that you're truly living out your purpose, you're living with intention, and you're becoming your greatest self? And that will allow for you to be the individual you were always destined to be, but furthermore, will allow for you to be the person that you need to be for the people around you, which is the most important.
Yeah, man. And well said. And I think I appreciate you coming on here. having this conversation with me, sharing your stuff with people.
It's an honor, brother.
Yeah. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at jacob.smith.fit. I am a fitness lifestyle coach. I do your nutrition, I do mindset training, as well as obviously fitness. So when it comes to everything that I focus on, you know, it's really just getting your mind right, being your accountability, and helping you get that self-confidence that's so important when it comes to life.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on here. And I'm Teddy Osuna. You guys can find me at Teddy's Fit Journey and themovemunchjourney.com. You can get all the information there if you guys want to hire me as a coach. And catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.